Thank you, Dwight. So I am Gina Fornecker. I do a number of different things, and I've trained formally in a number of art forms, but for the purpose of today, I'm going to stick to what I do in decorative arts. This is a fairly newer thing for me, but it's been a real joy for me to be able to look at all of the different projects that I've done over many years and kind of trace the thread of all of it to where I am today. One of the things that's important to me in all of my art is the themes of beauty and permanence and connection. So as I show you the pictures of a number of projects that I've done or I'm working on right now, I hope that you'll be able to see that in what I am making right now. The first projects that I'm going to show you is a piece of furniture that I designed for a friend of mine who's a carpenter in High Point. His name is Sam Rouse, and he trained traditionally in Scotland. And he's actually a childhood friend of mine who approached me about hand-drawing furniture for him. And I've really enjoyed the process of collaborating with someone who is an expert in a field that I really know nothing about, but visually it's been a really fun way to work. This particular piece that I'm going to show you the inspiration that he sent me first. It's a floating table. And he came to me and he said, I want to do something that looks like this. I have this client. She really likes sculptural work, and I think she'd be really excited about a floating table. This is what I had to go off of. And I looked at it and I said, how does this work? Like, this doesn't look possible. And it's really an illusion. But in order to get that illusion, I had to understand the physics of how you make something like that. So I did a lot of research, and I'm not a math whiz. This was way out of my comfort zone. But as I started to understand the way that you produce this kind of illusion, I came up with an idea that looked like this. So this is the first sketch that I sent to him. Actually, this is not the first, I lied. The first one was not connected in the middle. So the way that the floating table works is that the legs kind of spiral across each other, and they have to have a connecting point in the middle. So I came up with this idea for legs that twist and curled. I sent the design to Sam. He said, this looks great. He sent it to his client, and she said, that's amazing. I love the legs, but I don't want it to float. So I had to go back and revise it, and this is how I connected them so that it was the same twisted, curled legs, but they no longer floated. And then this is the finished product. I'm going to show you a video of the table in the client's space. The room around it is not finished, but you'll get a feel for the table itself. The other thing that I really love about the way that this project worked was that it required so much collaboration between me and Sam from a technical perspective as well. Initially, when we had drawn the design to float, the legs didn't have to bear weight, but when the client said, oh, I want it to connect in the middle, I then had to come up with a way to make the legs support-bearing. And Sam said, I don't think the wood can hold the weight of the tabletop. And I said, well, why don't we involve an ironsmith who can then wield the legs, and you can cover those in a wood veneer? And he was like, oh, well, that's a great idea. I work with an ironsmith from time to time, so I'll get in touch with him. So I think it was a really beautiful way to involve a number of experts from all of these disciplines to come together and create something entirely new. I really love the way that this table came out. And that's been one of my most fun projects. The next piece I'm going to talk about is something that I am working on with another friend of mine who makes gowns. This is my friend Catherine, my beautiful friend. She's also a childhood friend of mine, and I taught her how to sew about 8 years ago. And since then, she has launched her own cottage industry sewing gowns. And she's done really well, and they're just beautiful, and they're all hand sewn by her. She works in small batches. She made the one that I'm wearing. Catherine and I are doing a collaboration, a gown collaboration. So I am making the fabric for her next line of gowns. The idea for the fabric, which I'll show you in a few slides, but the idea for the fabric came from this plate, which I saw last year at the Fitzwilliam with a friend of mine. So this is a Dutch plate that was hand-painted in the 1780s. I was out with one of my dear English friends at the Fitzwilliam Museum, and I saw it, and I was like, this would make a beautiful fabric. This is me learning Photoshop. I hate screens. It is a real slog. So I hand-painted the motif based off of the design on the plate, which is it's a very clear correspondence. I'll show you the picture again, and then here's the difference. And then I learned Photoshop so that I could make the fabric. It is not an efficient way to work, but hey. And then this is the fabric. This is the first strike-off. Unfortunately, I don't have a picture of the gowns. Those are still being made right now. Another thing that's been really fun with this particular project is just to be able to see personally the way that I draw inspiration from all areas. Like when I'm out, I see things, and I always think about other ways that they can exist. And so just even going through photographs that I've taken in my phone, I can see like the things that inspire me. There's a tension for me with something like this. The fabric is not necessarily a high quality fabric, but in order to produce a hand blocked fabric, the cost of the gowns would be unattainable for pretty much everyone. So I do feel a little bit of tension between, I'd really like to be able to hand block this fabric, but also that's not practical. But it's also an opportunity. So I may end up playing around with learning how to hand block or hand screen because craftsmanship is really important to me. But for this project, the dresses will be made out of that fabric, which is a little bit more accessible. And the next project I'm going to show you is my kitchen tile. It's not tile. The design came from a tile that I loved but couldn't afford. Necessity is the mother of invention. I had the idea to paint it, and this is the tile itself, or the painting. I visited the David Parr House in the UK in 2022, so it's not that long ago, but and the David Parr House is a 20th century home that an artist called David Parr hand decorated from top to bottom over the span of his life. And he was a decorative artist. He worked some for William Morris. And he hand pounced. So pouncing is where you take your design and you poke holes in it, and then you chalk that design through basically, it's like a stencil, but you chalk the outline onto your walls. So you go into his house and you can see even some of the chalk marks, which I think is a really beautiful way to show the human hand behind the work. But I didn't really think of the decorative arts as a livelihood before this trip to the UK in 2022. And I just was like, my world was blown open, and all of a sudden I thought, oh, here's a way that I can combine all of the things that I love about art and home together. So this sparked the idea to paint my house from top to bottom. Why not? All my spare time. So this is another view of the tile. Again, you can kind of see I left it intentionally flawed. I wanted the brush strokes to be evident. I just really love the imperfections. I think that it gives it a sense of charm. The next project is my Bloomsbury Boys Room. I'm going to show you a couple of inspiration pictures first. This is Gifford Circus. This is an antique circus that Sam and I took our children to every summer when we lived abroad. Giffords was started by Nell, and this quote from her I think is so beautiful. She said, "I looked into the jewel box of my childhood, and I saw ponies and a dressing up box and a tent, and this was Gifford Circus." And when you go to Giffords, that's really the sense that you get. It's all very whimsical, and it's all handmade. The costumes are handmade. Even the people who sell your tickets are wearing these immaculate costumes that were hand-sewn. The tent is a handmade Italian tent with little like bench seating all the way around, and it's small. And there's just this sense of like every possibility. It's very imaginative, and it was a really precious thing that we did for our kids when we were there. So I wanted their bedroom to have this sense of like play and whimsy. That's the inside of the tent. You can see, they have musicians and acrobats, and it's all just amazing. So this was the inspiration for the boys' room, along with the arts and crafts movement, and particularly the Bloomsbury design group, or the Bloomsbury group. The Bloomsbury group was known for like their use of color and patterns, lots of rounds, like circular motifs, so I thought, okay, how can I make the boys' room, which is a very square box? I mean, it's about as unimaginative and exciting as it gets. Well, what can I do to make this a fun space for them? So this is still in progress. This is one of those projects that will evolve over time. The other thing that I should mention before I show you what the boys' room looks like now is that the other piece of inspiration that I took was this chapel. This is a chapel in Madresfield Court, which was decorated in they started it in 1902, and it was Henry Payne, and he had 3 assistants, and it took them 20 years. Every inch of the space is detailed and decorated, and they used the flowers from the estate itself, so they're all depicted, as well as his 7 children. And I just thought, okay, so this is from the same era as Thomas Paine, theologian, as David Parr. So this use of like lots of color and lots of pattern and all of the clash, and it's so busy, but it just works. So I loved this, and I thought, how can I combine all of this circus whimsy and this color and pattern into the boys' room? I have 1 assistant, so I can probably do it over 30 years. This is the room right now. So it will have picture molding around, which will be scalloped as well, and it is evolving slowly. It's all hand done. I did not use stencils. I freehanded it. And it's a learning process, but that's one of the things that I love so much about it. I also don't know how to add picture frame molding. I will be figuring that out. And the top, we're doing a triple built-in bunk in there, which I've designed and my carpenter is making for us. But once I have the bed built, I'm going to paint a faux tent circus on the top, so just stripes. When I say this is circus, it'll be striped. So it's a lot, but I'm leaning into it. The next project I'm sharing is totally different. This is a gardenscape that I did for a client recently. It's a dining room. One of the interesting things about this project was that we wanted it to reference traditional chinoiserie, which is very well-defined lines, really strong colors, lots of contrast. So in form, but not in style. So I had to use regular emulsion paint and dilute it to kind of get this watercolor effect. And that was a fun way to play, because I'd never done that before. I was like, well, I've not done it, but sure, we can give it a go. And I love the way it turned out. The flowers that I painted are not ever found together. Well, some of them are, but you would never find all of these together in nature at the same time, which makes it more whimsical. And also, I really liked the artistic freedom that she gave me to just paint whatever I wanted, wherever I wanted it. The other thing that I really love about it, I'm going to go back one slide, actually two. It's hard to see in the pictures, but by diluting the paints to a different amount for each layer, I was able to, especially on the butterflies, they almost glow. They have this like translucence on some of it, and then as they come forward, the paint thickens, which they, like in person, they kind of sparkle, which I really love. And then the next one is, the next one is in progress. This is the inspiration. This is in a hotel, hand painted, I think it's 18th century, in Jaipur. And I saw this, this picture was taken from a decorative artist in the UK called Tess Newell. She's wonderful. Does a lot of Bloomsbury stuff. But anyway, she took this picture, and I saw it, and I thought, that's so modern. Like, it's not, but it is. And I love it, and I love the movement, and it's so geometrically brilliant. And I thought, well, I think I want to do my own take on this. And I have this powder bath in our house that I've wanted to wallpaper with a Josef Frank paper. Josef Frank is, if you're in the design world, you've heard of Josef Frank. He's a 20th century Austrian turned Swedish designer who does lots of like really saturated colors, huge repeats, and he's just brilliant. He's always been a favorite of mine, and I found this pattern. Oops, one more. This is called Citrus Gardens. It's one of his, like, right now you see it everywhere. I fell in love with it about 10 years ago, and I thought, oh, I have the perfect space for that, and then turns out it's just not feasible. I'm not going to be using that in my powder bath, so what can I do instead? So this is what I'm doing instead. So this is just the design. The next thing that I have to do is figure out how I'm going to actually put it on my walls, because pouncing this would not be feasible. So I will probably be learning linocut so that I can stamp this onto my walls and then go back and add the detail by hand with brush. But if you'll notice, the floral motif changed, and I've added the butterflies. So from this to this references back to the colors and the floral style of Josef Frank. This is the way I work. How can I mash everything up together and like reinvent it? The last piece that is this is a 17th century room. Nope, that's not right. 18th century. 18th century room featuring furniture by John and William Lindell. They were known for their Chippendale style furniture. I am showing you this because I have my next project for a client is going to be painting a Chippendale floor. So I'm using this headboard as the inspiration for their dining floor. She's also got a very like feminine floral, well, it's not floral, it's birch trees as their wallpaper in their beautiful dining room. And so we wanted to juxtapose that really feminine, floral, like nature motif with something that's more masculine and geometric. So this is the inspiration for that, and this is the design, which is scaled. So this will be their floor. The challenge is going to be how do I distinguish the lines, because we wanted one color and the wood showing through. So I think I'm going to either have to leave gaps between the color and the wood to delineate the space between, or add another color. So everything that I do is fun in that it's different than the last project. And everything that I do is challenging because it's different from the last project. And I really love that, because it means that I get to learn something new every time. There's a new puzzle, there's a new something to figure out. But in even preparing this, I was able to kind of like go back and see, what is it that connects what I do? What is that through line? And it really is, it's that everything that I do has to tell a story. Everything that I do has to have some kind of connection, whether it's relationally or historically. And permanence is a really important part of what I value, in that I don't want to just do something for the sake of making it pretty. I want to do it because it's actually adding some lasting value that hopefully will be there for generations and not just the next couple of years. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you.
Yeah, one thing you'll never hear me saying is that I'm designing some furniture that my carpenter's gonna make for the boys' room. Not to mention 90% of everything else she just shared. So I look at this and I feel like Brian Regan saying, I don't even know what girth means. So, it's amazing. And this falls right into one of the things I've said for so long, is that you just never know who's sitting right next to you. So Gina's been here for several years with Sam, sitting out there, and you would never know if you go, oh, hi, how are you this morning, what she's up to. And you're up to quite a bit. Would you mind entertaining a question or two? Does anybody have a question for Gina about anything? Okay, let me get you on the mic, because we've done this before, and then for the video later, you just hear this silence, and so you got to use the stick.
This is a really stupid question, but did you make one of those floating tables for your house?
No, I did not. That was for a very specific client, and that's the other thing. I don't do things twice. I would love one of those tables for my own personal use, but also with 4 small children, somebody would take their spray. Yeah, it doesn't get to live in my house, not yet.
Any other questions? Yes, Mary.
The Chippendale floor.
Yes.
What sort of paint are you going to use? How are you going to do that?
That is an excellent question. And I had to do a lot of research, and I'm still in the process of trying everything on the sample floor that I have. There are paints that are developed specifically for floors. It's going to take probably 2 coats of primer plus the 2 coats of paint, and then I'll have to shellac over the top. So I'll be busy.
One question over here. Andrew, right?
Hey, Gina, great presentation. It's really fun to see your process and how it all comes together. I'm just curious, if you think about yourself as an artist before you were a parent and now that you're a parent, what's different now that you're a parent?
That is a really good question. So I actually never thought of myself as an artist before I was a parent. And I think the kind of art that I'm doing is slightly different, but also the personal like revelation, if you will, that not everybody sees the world in the way that I see it. Like, not everybody sees a plate and thinks, "Oh, wow, let me figure out how I can change that, like appropriate that." So I think it's more like I've stepped into it a little bit more, maybe, than I did before I had kids. I also think that I now have a like deeper appreciation for the time that I get to spend doing art. Whereas before it was sort of like, oh, I'm just making this thing because I feel like it. Like, I can sew for 3 hours, why not? And now it's like, no, this time is actually really precious, and this is something that I'm doing as an artist that requires that set us apart time. That's a very good question. I'm gonna have to think more about that.
That is a good question. I remember reading a book once about Le Corbusier, the architect, French architect. We used to call him Le Corbubu. And he wouldn't appreciate that, but nonetheless, at the beginning, he had a quote from Salvador Dali that said, "Marriage and art do not mix." And I thought, I see where he's going with that, but Jesus has a bride, and there's nobody more creative, so I beg to differ. But there's a way to do it. There's a way to do it. Last question, Roy.
There are those that may want to know where to order the dresses. Are you going to have a link up?
Yes, so that's my friend Chalk House Shop. She has an Etsy account and she has an Instagram page, and she always announces when she's got a release coming. So I think she'll have this first run done fairly soon. She also makes gowns to order, so that's fun in that if you have some fabric. Like, actually, the one that I'm wearing, I had this fabric that I had bought when we were in Cambridge, and I just couldn't face cutting into it myself. So I messaged Catherine. I was like, if I send you my fabric, will you do something with it for me? And she was very happy to oblige. So this is extra special in that it's fabric that I got from our old home.
Awesome. Thank you, Gina.
Thanks
so
you.
much.